Hey, what's up, you guys? So today I intend to take some time to just go ahead and shit on companies and schools that have strict dress codes and policies on how you can or cannot wear your hair. And this is something that I've been meaning to just post about for the longest time because I have flashbacks of my time when I was in school, and I feel like I was pretty fortunate about the school district that I attended because they just did not care for the most part about certain things, especially when you hit high school. Middle school was a little bit more strict, but it wasn't anything wow, unbearably so. And then I remember when I was a child, my elementary school experience, I had to wear uniforms, the schools that I went to, and it was the most annoying thing in the world because sometimes we would have, I forget why, but we would have specific dates in which you could actually wear something that's not part of the uniform, like maybe wear jeans and a t-shirt or something. Those were the best days in life because I was comfortable and it was just good to wear normal clothes to go to school and not have to worry about, I cannot go to the basketball court and play basketball like I mean to because I have to be careful about my goddamn skirt not getting ripped or something. Just crazy stuff like that. Or if you're exercising in some type of way, because I am a lady, I have to be conscious about what I do so that I don't end up revealing too much about myself. And I'm like, bitch, get the fuck out of here. I know that I would wear shorts just like everyone else beneath your skirt because you just have to. But it's just annoying that they're trying to like wash your brain into behaving in a certain way just because of what you're wearing. And I'm like, given that I'm an adult now and I can make decisions for myself, that's why I tell everybody I don't care about what I wear, and I especially cannot care nowadays because I am athletic. So I have to be wearing proper stuff to be able to jump, run, squat, bend, whatever, because that's normally what I'm doing. I'm just an active person and I love to do that. I'm not going to refuse to, I don't know, play tennis or something if someone randomly invites me because I'm not wearing the proper shoes or I'm not wearing the proper clothes. So that's how I felt as a kid going to a school where uniforms were required because you have like this expectation about what you wear. And when I was taking a class called Teacher Cadet, which is pretty much preparing me for taking an education path in college, this was brought up in a discussion about uniforms and stuff. And basically, all I had to say was, I think it's stupid to try to tell me that uniforms make you better and less likely to be bullied. If you don't get bullied for what you wear, you're going to be bullied for how you look. You're going to be bullied for the type of hair that you have, your eye color, your height, your gender, anything. People can pick on you for anything. The kind of backpack you have, the kind of shoes you're wearing. So this is not going to win the battle against bullying. If anything, I don't want to say that it'll proliferate it because I don't really have a way to evidence this, but in a sense, it'll still generate just as much problems because people are gonna say that maybe your uniform is old because you cannot afford to buy a new one. So they're gonna pick on you for that too. Like, oh, your uniform is fading, or your mom messed it up while she was washing the laundry because she can only afford to wash everything in the same load. I don't know. Anything can come up. Kids are like that. But, anyways, in my personal opinion, wearing a uniform feels limiting. Let's say that you have inclement weather that day. You have to adapt your what you wear on top of your uniform, and then no matter what the setting is in the classroom, if it's very hot, if it's very cold, you have to sort of like guesstimate what is going to be comfortable for you on a particular day. But at the same time keep your uniform on. To me, that's just ridiculous. There are days in which I would wear whatever shortest sleeve was acceptable by my school, and it's because it gets hot as shit around here. So to limit a student to just experience discomfort due to the elements because of something that you gotta wear, making us all look like clowns just because that's what they say we gotta do. Like, no, that would affect my ability to learn. If I'm too hot, I cannot focus. If I'm too cold, I cannot focus. So, a uniform that's strict, it really would mess up with my ability to learn, period. And then when it comes to hair color, it's crazy to me that in some places it's considered an unnatural hair color, especially given your population average, which is homogeneous countries. Um, some places do not even know what a ginger is because that simply doesn't exist in their population. But you would have to, despite it being your natural color, you would have to alter it in some way to adapt into what the culture of the school is. And then I also, before filming this, I happened to look at a video that I had in my watch later for like 5 months. And it was about Japan, and it was talking about how there was a student who sued her school because she had brown hair or something, and the school clearly establishes that only black hair is acceptable. And then that got me thinking, how does your hair color impact your ability to learn? To me, that just sounds so like old fashioned. That's just a whole nother level of intolerance, if you ask me. But I do not know about the Japanese culture. In fact, I actually like um, some of their disciplines. Like they are very respectful about how they eat, and I guess that's how they keep their good shape, longevity, and all that good stuff. There's a lot of stuff that I can say we as Americans can pick up from them, but at the same time, there's some stuff that I find it a little too extreme. But then again, maybe if I would have been born into that society, that stuff wouldn't bother me. Whereas I was born into a society that's pretty, let's call it liberal in that department. So therefore, maybe I'm missing the point of how that helps you be a disciplined individual. Like following so many strict rules makes you less likely to cause trouble in the future, because I don't know Japan for being a society that has a high crime rate. Maybe it does, I don't know. But honestly, it is rare that we hear stuff extreme happening over there. Like when did they have a mass shooting? I don't remember. But at the same time, when it comes to stuff like that, about what you wear and what you look like. It's so stupid that someone else actually tells me what to do and how to look and what to wear and not wear. I just cannot wrap my head around that. I don't go around telling people what they need to wear or what kind of hair color they need to have. So why would I allow an institution to do that to me? Especially school, when all I go there for is to get my education, learn, study, pass tests, and get my certifications, degree, whatever you call it, and keep going with my life. My hair does not make me any better or any worse of a person than anyone else. And in this video, it's like there's this guy that goes out and starts interviewing people in the public to see what they have to say, and pretty much everyone agreed that the rule of the school was stupid. I think there was only one guy who said that the school is right because they expressed that in their rules. I get it, but at the same time, in the grand scheme of things, how is someone having brown hair really that terrible? I guess it's unacceptable because you're a society where you all look the same, you all have the same hair color, same eye color, same skin tone, same body shape, whatever. I'm guessing you take pride on that. But again, I guess the reason I wanted to talk about this and put my opinion out there is because I know how very much not like I don't like to follow tradition at all. I'm all for breaking the rules when it comes to that, like challenge them, be different. So to be in a society where I just cannot do that, it almost makes me feel like I take the society that I live in for granted in that aspect. But like when I think about myself, every single Japanese person that I've ever looked at, they all have straight hair. I guess I would be unacceptable with my curly ass hair, and I guess my tan too. I don't know how they feel about skin tones, but I do know of the, are they half-foos? Is that what they call it? Like a half, I don't know, half black, half Japanese person. So maybe they ain't got beef with people like that. Maybe they think half-foos are cool. I'll have to look at that. But at the same time, if you're born with nappy hair, then I guess you may be looked at a little funny. But it's strange. It's one of those things that you would have to experience for yourself, I guess. But all in all, I think that dress code policies do not help. I do not think they protect students from anything. I do not think that they help you with your self esteem at all. And honestly, I look at it as a waste of resources because every year or every couple of years, or as you move from, say, middle school to high school or elementary to middle school, your uniform changes. And some schools, it's a different color every single year. It's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources. And if you come from a poor district, I can see how that can hinder your parents' finances because uniforms are expensive. Let me tell you, at least back in my day, I can only imagine that stuff has inflated now. But my mother would be so irritated about having to buy uniforms. And also, I guess what worries me the most about having your appearance controlled like that is that, say, when you go to the work setting, you are being judged by an appearance that you really cannot do anything about. Like, have you guys ever heard how dreads are considered unprofessional, and how your beard being a certain length is gross or something? I can see how that can be a hazard if you're in the food industry. Like, I wouldn't want Dumbledore to be fixing my burger, right? But like, unless he has his thing just not near food or anything. But I think that it's trying to influence people into being insecure with their own appearance and thinking that you will be more trustworthy if you meet a certain criteria. Like, the person in the business suit who has the hair trimmed and all that. This is an honest person. This is a person who cannot possibly commit a crime. This is a person who's just professional from A to Z, and they're less likely to be thought of as a suspect of anything. Whereas an individual who may be incredibly talented and clever and you name it, they may be wearing clothes that are a little bit more on the modest sector, and they're looked at as unreliable and lacking education, lacking professionalism. And I'm like, bitch, what defines what makes a good professional on the surface? Like, that's like judging a book from its cover. How many times have you not picked up a book that you were hyped about and it turned out to disappoint you? So, same thing with a worker. We have hired numerous people that they look, wow, they look like, I don't know, like they have a great leadership traits and whatever, their resume is impressive, and they turned out to be the greatest pieces of shit ever. So we had to let them go. What does that tell you? Like, that is a very inefficient way of judging people for what they can do and what they cannot do. So I guess that's why I frown at dress codes like that, because honestly, I just look at it as trying to bother people, trolling people. It's like also saying that you shouldn't do certain things before getting married. To me, that sounds like a group of people got together in ancient times and decided to just compile a list of things to just troll people with. And some people took it seriously, and other people understood that they're just being trolled, so they just take control of their lives and just go about it. But I don't know, you guys. That's all I have to say on this matter. I think it's stupid. I think it's a waste of resources. I think it hinders people's ability to concentrate on the things that really matter, and I think it should be done away with. And if you have an issue with hair color that doesn't really match what what you're used to seeing, then I guess if it's your society, then you're entitled to your own rules and whatnot. But to say, to go into a platform where you're being watched live, like globally, and you say black hair is superior to any other color and it's considered the most reliable on a person, like if I see a blonde person, I automatically think that they're more likely to be causing trouble. You got problems. Because let me tell you, people who have dark hair have done bad things to me. And they have done bad things, period. So to say that that's a good indicative of a troublemaking person and a non troublemaking person, it's like you need to reevaluate yourself. And if you're from a homogeneous country, you need to give yourself an opportunity to like look out the window and explore what else happens in the world, because this is a macrocosm and you're just limiting your mindset. I'm just saying. Maybe it's because I'm from the West and we just don't care, but anyways. Hi, you're incredibly hot and keep up the great live stream. Thanks a lot. My school justified its uniform policy by saying it makes sure there was no bullying based on clothes, competition of fashion, and such. And honestly, if you ask me, when it comes to fashion and competing and all that, I enjoyed watching what other people could come up with their outfits, like what they can wear, how they can put outfits together. I admired that only because I suck at clothing. Like, I just cannot put an outfit together to save my life. So it's cool to see what other girls do and what other guys do as well. And if you're athletic, especially, sometimes you just need to wear specific clothes. Like, sometimes I gotta wear compression leggings from how fucking sore I am. So I cannot imagine me being an athlete and having to just be in school all sore and miserable, and I could be like helping my body to recover faster, but because I have to obey some kind of rule, I cannot do it. It's, yeah, these people who make the rules, they need to get a life. You're not solving the world from evil, ridding the world of evil, I promise you. I didn't like my school. I was so glad to get out of there. I wanted to burn my uniform when I left. I didn't, but I wanted to. And see, when I think about it, uniforms is something that I personally would associate with something negative, like inmates, for example. They wear inmate uniforms. They did bad stuff in society. So you are making us all wear uniforms and we're all looking the same. It's like we're following some kind of some kind of trend, like I'm not saying that wearing a uniform makes you a criminal. I'm just saying that bad people wear some type of uniform already. So why are we trying to impose the idea of uniforms on the rest of society? And when you work at a company too, it's like work can vary from time to time. So say that you're in an say that you're in a building and it's primarily offices, and all of a sudden you have a fire and it's the middle of winter, and then you are, well, in our case, as a woman, let's say that your dress code typically consists of you wearing shoes that are on the dressy side of the spectrum. Like, say it has some kind of a heel to it. It's gonna suck to be barefooted and also to have that heel that you cannot rely on for running. I'm going to burn to hell just because I decided to obey the dress code when I knew very well that shoes that are flat are the best way to go. And not only that, but wearing shoes like that will eventually lead to back problems. And I believe that I am too young to be busting my back over shoes. Just appearances is something that people give too much importance to, and I just wish that they didn't, because it's a big waste of time, and it's really a form of mind control, if you ask me, because you're generating opinions based on an appearance, because you're not taking the time to get to know someone, and you think that just because someone is displaying certain traits, you know them from just looking at them on the surface. Like, bitch, no, get out of here, do your job, get to meet someone via conversation and spending quality time with them and whatnot. The last 2 years, people were allowed to wear whatever, nothing changed. The things we judge people by should be by content of character and not on chosen characteristics. Exactly. Because let me tell you, if I would have had a say on how I would look a whole lot different. In Japan, light skin is worshipped as is in the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, and the US. I imagine so, because the biggest hint is an anime. When was the last time you saw a dark skinned main character in anime? Or, in fact, normally anime characters have light skin, straight hair, colored eyes like blue, green, sometimes purple or something. But yeah, those are primarily European traits. Clearly, these people have their mindset on, I guess, the Aryan race traits being superior, like blonde, blue eyes, light skin. I mean, I'm not saying that there's something bad with that race. I'm just saying that to worship anything like that, period, is stupid, because you're placing values on stuff that's just there temporarily. And another thing that people like to worship is youth. Yeah, youth is awesome. You feel great. You don't have pain. You're flexible. You can move. You have endless amounts of energy. And then you start aging and all the bad shit starts happening. It's a blow for your self esteem. Cool. Just embrace it and keep living. Like, it's crazy to me that, say, you place interest on someone just because in their prime years they look amazing, and then when they start aging, it's like you no longer respect that person. Why? You know? Where am I at? But that doesn't mean we ignore truths about a person in an attempt to stereotype. In Japan, the students wear uniforms. The reason is so that nobody can tell who is rich or poor, and so that students concentrate on studying instead of fashion. You know what? That was also a point we discussed in my cadets class, which was, when the rich kids afford their fancy clothes, it's kind of a form of bullying, because it's trying to highlight the social hierarchy amongst the students. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm the type of person who thinks that something will affect you, something will offend you, something will influence you only if you let it affect you and influence you and offend you, period. Because, yeah, there were a bunch of rich kids at the school that I went to. I was poor, but did I ever feel inferior? Did I ever have any complexes? No, because I knew that they have their privilege, which is their parents' bank account is loaded. Mine isn't, but I'm still wearing clothes. What matters is I am protected against the elements. And there were some stupid kids who, in the name of looking, you know, fab, they would wear only one layer in 20-degree weather, and they would complain that they were cold. I was never a child who complained about being cold nor hot. I dressed appropriately. So I think that's the only way that I would actually applaud a dress code, but at the same time, the dress code itself limits you on how you can adapt to the weather when I think about it. But like I said, if you teach your kids to feel inferior about other people, or better yet, if you do not train your kids to not feel intimidated or inferior by other people based on their possessions, the world will be a better place, because that's the way I was led when I was younger. I was shown the things to value and the things to not value that actually matter. Like like I said, rich people in my school never bothered me. I was never jealous of them. They had their Blackberries and their iPhones when they were coming out at first, and they had their fancy backpacks, North Face jackets, and whatever, you name it, all the fancy shit. They had their Macs too, and I just did not give a fuck. And then I would see people who would ride the bus and they lived in neighborhoods that clearly are challenged in the financial department, and they too were trying to wear fancy clothes and have fancy gadgets. And I'm like, it's your own fault for valuing those things. It's not the rich person oppressing you. It's you're deciding to value that stuff, and you try to show off that you technically cannot afford that stuff, but that's how you choose to waste your money when you turn 16 and you start working. That's not anybody else's business. That's on you. You're deciding to mismanage your funds, trying to go after name brands, you know? So, I don't know. It's dumb to me. I just cannot think that way. So maybe it's wrong for me to be speaking on this, but I just cannot think that way. Period. In Berserk, one of the main characters is dark skinned. Naruto has dark skinned characters, but they are stereotypes. Exactly. If they ever have a minority character, they are often stereotyped. They all live in one village, and one of them speaks in raps all the time. It is 50-50 what happens to you. Why do humans argue so much about race when there's only one human race? You know what? When I made a video about my opinion on interracial relationships, I think, or being biracial, whichever one, I made two separate videos. Someone put in the comments that they detest the fact that I sounded like, basically, he said, I hate the bullshit of there's only one race, the human race. And I'm like, I mean, what is so wrong about that? It is true. I mean, we humans would get together to survive against a whole herd of, I don't know, bulls or something coming our way. That's when you will realize that we're actually the same race, like the same species. We need from each other to keep living in the same manner that other wild animals have their own little societies in their own way, and they keep each other alive. But this whole race thing is just politics. Politics. You cannot convince me that it is the way that's correct to look at life. Like, oh, I need to treat you a certain type of way because you are white, so therefore I have to be, to name something crazy, I have to be submissive to you because you're the almighty white man. Like, no. Oh, I have to feel inferior just because I'm a little darker skin and I am a woman. I am not very strong physically, naturally, so I need to feel like I have to be submissive all the time. No, no, I cannot think that way. Or, a black person, I have to look at them as they're more prone to crimes because, I don't know, they tend to be poorer or something. No, there are still people who need to breathe just as much oxygen as I need. And that's why I think of everyone as the human race. Period. Maybe it's overly simplistic. Maybe I like for it to be overly simplistic because I am not wasting time on things that to me personally do not matter. That's it. And that's why I don't particularly enjoy engaging in race conversations because it turns sour unnecessarily, and I just do not have the patience for that. I just don't. Like, it's not like I cannot argue, but it's just that I like to keep it simple, but people try to challenge me and convince me that I am wrong for my views, and I'm like, mother effer, you may be right, I may be right, you may be wrong, I may be wrong. There's always going to be a right side on both people. Like, the Democratic Party has stuff that I like. The Republican Party has stuff that I like. The independent party has stuff that I like. But in the end, none of them represent me accurately. So I know that my views will not represent you entirely, and that's okay. Let's see. Where am I at? Gosh, we're having such an awesome. Drives me crazy. Spanish families have every race in, and Jamaicans too. I know lots of people with blonde hair and blue eyes and are black but pass for white and feel entitled to not do anything for others. No race equals no racism. In the real world, there is going to be real differences that people have. It's counterintuitive to try to make them old kids act look the same. In life, you have to not only deal with your gifts. Uniforms are part of Catholic rich private school systems. Now charter schools will promote uniforms. There were talks about making uniforms required in high schools too, and I was like, I am so glad that this is my last year in school anyway because I could not bear to do this. I already can bear that online classes are pretty much replacing everything. By the time that I left school, most language courses were online. So that's why I said French, Spanish. I'm sorry for y'all, but I cannot keep trying. That, and I'm just not good with learning languages anyway, so didn't matter. But also accept your inferior traits and work with that to enrich yourself. People forget Trump was the only one who visited Mike Tyson when he was arrested, and they still call him a racist. It's not so much race that separates us, but more culture and upbringing that separates us group of people. Exactly. Exactly. It is the parents who mess things up. We cannot deal with real issues when we deal with butter sticks. Agreed. Some races believe they are better than others. Some people actually like their race, like me. Some people stereotype other races. Everyone smash the like button for Zamri. I will quote the World War II German troops together, we are stronger. You know what? When it comes to work, that is so true that together we're stronger thing because at work, I find that when we as a team collectively work on the same project, the success rate really sees a boost. But when we're also divided and separate, yeah, we don't go anywhere because there's always that negative person in the group. There's the lazy person in the group. There's the incapable, by their definition, person in the group. There's the sleepy person in the group. There's that deserter in the group, the person who's never paying enough attention. So if we all could just agree to work on a common goal, stuff would be better. But make sure that the common goal is not something toxic from the start. God fixed the race issue by making sure that the blackest people can have white babies and the whitest people may turn brown by the sun. You know what? That's interesting because when I think about babies, I always wonder what mine are going to look like given the big salad that there is in my family. Like, there is white people, there's, of course, mixed people, then there's black people, there's native people, so I just do not know what my kids are gonna look like. Like, everyone thought when I was born that I was going to be like, everyone thought I was gonna be dark, but then I turned out to be pale as hell. But as soon as I went out into the sun said, oh, child, let's activate that melanin. And then I ended up looking more on the cinnamon side. But nowadays, I do not hang out under the sun because my skin just cannot take it. So I'm actually paler than I really should be, but anyways, it's cool. I got skin. I never thought of that. But yeah, my mother theorizes that one of my children is either going to have green or blue eyes because it skipped our generation, which is her children, my brother and I. So now it has to show up in the next generation. So, and sometimes when I get in my moods when I don't want to have kids, I get worried that I'm going to miss out on that experience. But then I think of it as I shouldn't treat my body as a science experiment, like, I'm going to have a baby because I want to see what it's going to look like. because then I would have to do something crazy. I would have to get hooked with a brother, and then I would have to get hooked with a mommy to figure out what my kids are going to look like, and then I should get hooked up with someone similar looking to me to determine what we're gonna have, you know. But I don't want to be that person. I don't want for my children to have three separate baby daddies. That's just going to be incredibly crazy, and that's just not how I roll. But yeah, interesting. Of course, I guess that if I got together with a brother, it's going to be those traits dominating, like the curly hair, the dark skin, because I already favor some of those. But then if I get together with a mummy, it's going to be probably the paleness, maybe the blue eyes, but then again, I have brown eyes. Brown eyes are dominant. So maybe my child will not have blue eyes or green eyes, whatever. But I think green eyes are semi-dominant. What's that term? Like, anyways. Anyways, I haven't really looked at that in a while, but anyways. Let's see. Colors that we see does not mean they are not there. Parakeets have blue nostrils for men and pink for women, and they may not even see them themselves. That's interesting. But there's also the aspect of butterflies that have different colors to actually protect themselves from predators. So it's like their predators, I guess, can see colors, whereas they cannot. I don't know. Do you feel like at some point all races will mix together and people will try to prevent that? Like me, I want to marry someone of my own race because we would share the same culture. Honestly, in the direction that the world is going, let's think critically and break it down. We have transportation. It's so easy for you to meet people from different races, different cultures that you otherwise probably wouldn't have. And it's very easy for you to transport yourself, very easy for you to just spread out into the globe. I feel like we are moving towards that becoming a mixed race because when you think about it, especially in the United States, we can all pretty much trace some kind of ancestor that's abnormal. What I mean by abnormal is you can have a generation of perfectly white people, but then they end up having someone black in their ancestry. Let's take Ronda Rousey, for example. Isn't her grandfather black? You wouldn't know that about her just looking at her. To me, she looks like a perfectly fine white lady, but she actually has a black grandparent. So her lineage is already clearly mixed up. But other places like Japan and let's say, I would imagine that Norway, somewhere like that, is also pretty homogeneous. So I think that the people who have this huge sense of pride for their country and culture and patriotism, and they want to conserve that, preserve that, they will be amongst the last people in the planet to accept interracial stuff happening. But when I look at it in a when I look at it limited to my own culture, I think that the US is already like that. It's already multiracial, multicultural, even if at first glance you look like you favor one race. But when it comes to other countries, like I have to think that there's a huge planet out there, it's a huge world out there. If other countries do not mind people getting mixed, then fine. Because I know that there are places that are very strict about what's legal and what's not when it comes to marriage and stuff like that. But honestly, I think that as a society as a whole, we are kind of dropping our guard with some things. But then there's the group of people who are fearing that their numbers are dwindling and that they fear that they're going to disappear. Because I don't know how true this is, but I have heard that the intention way back in the day was all about having a race that's superior and then try to wipe out certain races by coercing, say, the women to reproduce with members of a specific race so that that race plants their seed into the non other race, like the other race, and that way, generation after generation after generation, those traits are going to get lost. So I guess that's what invasions were about. Again, I don't know how true that is. I really do not spend time dwelling on the past like that, but it makes sense. It's not too far fetched that people can have an agenda like that if your intention is to invade and conquer and pretty much beat your culture and language into other people. But when I think about it, those plans seem to have been pretty thwarted. So that's why I say that, yeah, no matter how hard these people tried in history to make that happen, it's not it's not really the direction that society's going now. Because especially with more modern kids, most modern kids, unless they were raised by their grandparents or something, and their grandparents simply could not let go of their customs, we all tend to be on the same page when it comes to marriage and getting mixed and all that. See what I mean? So those are going to be the mothers and fathers of the next generation, which means that the next generation is going to pick up after the parents' values, and their parents value diversity. So yeah, I do think that we're headed more for a more mixed planet. Hopefully that addressed your question, and hopefully I make sense. I'm not saying that my answer is correct. I am not claiming to be an expert on the topic, so just a disclaimer. But yeah, that's what I think. That's what I observe in my immediate vicinity. Um, where did I stop? You had your blue or green eyes in the womb, or when you were a baby, my son's eyes changed from blue to brown. Yeah, true. From what I understand, all babies are born with blue eyes, but when you get exposed to the sun, that's when the melanin kicks in, and some people just lack it and they remain blue. But you know what's always confused me about that? How is it that there's some dark people who can have blue eyes? If you have melanin present, why is that melanin not doing its thing with your eyes too? But again, I'm not an expert in biology. I wanted to be, but I gave up. Race doesn't define culture. True. Asian culture is almost 80% of the world. A lot of black rednecks and vice versa out there, only if you include India in that tea leaf. My friend who is blonde and blue eyed claims African American sighting all life started in America. She also does not personally like to date black people either. Anyone want to get deep on morality? Yeah, I guess we could. Feel free to. At one point, all humans were the same hominid species running around the plains. That's Europe. Some of them are in fear with all the Muslims immigrants that they will become a minority. Muslim immigrants generally have more children, so their population grows exponentially. Their eyes will change after they die, and some have a longer delay or does not change at all. And once they outnumber the rest, they think they will enforce Sharia law. Personally, I don't know, but you cannot criticize their religion. You will get fined, and that's one component of the Sharia law. You already can't. Yeah, true. I have heard about that. That in some places, if you speak against something, that's a very, very, very bad move. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here. I believe that we pretty much addressed everything that we could when it comes to this topic. Yeah, look at Tommy case. Um, but yeah, and I actually have to go because I should really do something about some phone calls that I have to make. Do you guys ever experience that you have to get in touch with some company or just someone in general and you just postpone it until the deadline is like right there, and then your panic is what makes you function. That's the stage that I'm at. But anyways, this horda helped me get my mind together, do something fun, and address it better. And yeah, I'll also do something about some messes in the house because I just have not had the time. I've had a crazy schedule, but anyways, I'll get to it. Cops chat Sam. What? Good chat. Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, what? Yeah. But yeah, you guys, I'll be around like always. Yesterday I wanted to film, but the landscaping people decided that they would do something to the tree that's next to my building, and I'm in the corner. So it was so loud in here that I said I cannot film. And had I tried to relocate to stream, my car was blocked by a vehicle, and I am socially shy and awkward, and I did not want to go out there and be like, can you move your truck? Because I just cannot start conversations. But anyways, I'm here. That's what matters. And yeah, so I'll be back at some point. Our life is immoral because we have to consume another life to live another day. We consider vampires immoral when they do not try to consume life and just want to extend theirs. Not necessarily. You can live off fiber and vitamin extras. Yeah, it is possible to have a plant-based diet, for example. And that's actually one argument that my mother had with my cousin, who is a biologist. She's like, okay, if we have our views on what's moral and what not, how come you still gotta feed that hamster to that snake? And I'm like, that is going to get messy very quickly. But yeah, um, if the animal has already perished, why not consume it? But if you're trying to bring it up from the point of view of us being the cause for the animal perishing in the first place, then I guess you do have a point, but think about it. Other creatures are going to try to get to you as well. So, do other creatures have a sense of morality and whatnot? Why do we as humans need to be the ones who have that? Just because we can sort of be a little more rational? I mean, you would think that the rational responsibility would be distributed amongst all species to some extent. But no, we reason within our own scope of life, if that makes sense, what's applicable for us. But then other creatures, they are driven by instinct. We have our own instinct, but we decide to not really follow it all the time because society has us trained to not respond like that anymore. And I guess an example of that would be giving birth. Women, I feel, do not even know how to give birth naturally anymore. We are relying on hospitals. So they have lost touch with their motherly instinct on how to push a baby completely free of assistance. So now you need to rely on hospitals and high tech, whereas midwives used to do the trick back in the day. But anyways, I'm rambling now. That may be a topic for another day. So then scavengers are more moral. Well, they are not going into scavenging with the idea of preserving life, so I don't think that's a morality. Interesting. Yeah, good point. I agree. It's more what's the easiest meal. Well, they do not kill them, so it is less immoral at night pub. You know what I should do? I should just sit here and chill and let you guys run the show. But yeah, honestly, I've always wondered about that. There's the scavengers, they're the predators, and they're the folks who are the preys. So, huh. Anyways, guys, I'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in. I believe it's the intention that creates morality.